What kind of man wrestles with God himself and refuses to let go? A liar, a thief, a man who stole his brother's blessing and fled for his life. His name was Jacob, and it meant deceiver. But by sunrise, he would have a new name, a new identity, and a limp that would remind him forever of the night everything changed. This is the story of how a con artist became the father of a nation. This is the story of Israel. But before we get there, I need you to do something for me. If you've ever felt like your past mistakes disqualify you from God's purpose, if you've ever wondered whether someone as flawed as you could ever be used by God, type Israel in the comments right now, because Jacob's story is about to show you something that might just change how you see yourself and how you see God. While you're at it, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this with someone who needs to hear that transformation is possible. I want you in this conversation. Now, let's go back to the beginning. The prophecy before birth. Before Jacob ever took his first breath, there was war. Not on a battlefield, not between armies, but inside his mother's womb. Rebekah had waited 20 years for this pregnancy. 20 years of barrenness in a culture where childlessness was seen as a curse. 20 years of watching other women hold their babies while her arms remained empty. And then, finally, God answered Isaac's prayers. Rebekah conceived, but something was wrong. The babies inside her, yes, twins, were fighting, jostling, struggling against each other with a violence that terrified her. In desperation, she cried out to God, "Why is this happening to me?" And God answered. But his answer wasn't comfort. It was prophecy. 2 nations are in your womb. 2 peoples will be separated from your body. One will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. In that ancient world, this was unthinkable. The firstborn received the blessing. The firstborn led the family. The firstborn inherited the covenant promises. But God was about to overturn everything. A birth that foretold everything. When the day of delivery came, the first baby emerged red and hairy, like a wild thing from the wilderness. They named him Esau, but right behind him, gripping his brother's heel with a tiny fist, came the second twin. They named him Jacob. In Hebrew, the name means heel catcher, but everyone knew what it really meant. Deceiver, supplanter, the one who trips you from behind. From his very first moment, Jacob was fighting for position, grasping, reaching, refusing to accept second place. And he would spend the next several decades living up to that name. A house divided. As the boys grew, their differences became a canyon between them. Esau became a man of the field, rough, impulsive, a skilled hunter who embodied the masculine ideal of his time. He came home smelling of earth and blood, trophies slung over his shoulder, living for the thrill of the chase. Jacob was quiet, domestic. He stayed among the tents, watching and thinking. Where Esau acted on instinct, Jacob calculated. Where Esau charged ahead, Jacob waited for the right moment. And then there was the favoritism. Isaac loved Esau. The wild son reminded him of adventure, of vitality. He loved the taste of the wild game Esau brought him, but Rebekah loved Jacob. She remembered the prophecy. She knew which son was destined for greatness, and she would do anything to make it happen. This divided house was a bomb waiting to explode, the bowl of stew that changed history. The explosion came on an ordinary day. Esau stumbled in from the field, exhausted and famished. The smell of Jacob's lentil stew filled the tent, rich, warm, irresistible. "Quick! Give me some of that red stew, I'm starving." Jacob looked up, and in that moment, he saw his opportunity. His voice was calm, deliberate. "First, sell me your birthright. The birthright. The position of family leadership. The double inheritance, the spiritual responsibility to carry on the covenant God made with Abraham. Esau laughed bitterly. "Look, I'm about to die here. What good is a birthright to a dead man?" He wasn't dying. He was hungry. But in that moment, Esau revealed something about his soul. He valued the immediate over the eternal, the bowl in front of him over the blessing of generations. Jacob pressed his advantage. "Swear to me first," and Esau swore. He sold his birthright for a bowl of stew. Scripture's judgment is devastating in its simplicity. So Esau despised his birthright. But Jacob? He had the birthright now, and he wanted more. Years passed. Isaac grew old. His eyes dimmed until the world became nothing but shadows and shapes. One day, sensing death approaching, he called for Esau. "My son, take your bow and hunt some wild game for me. Prepare the food I love, so that I may give you my blessing before I die." The blessing. This wasn't just kind words from a dying father. In that world, a patriarch's blessing was prophetic, powerful, irreversible. Once spoken, it could never be taken back. Esau grabbed his bow and headed for the fields, his heart full of anticipation. But someone else had been listening. A mother's desperate plan. Rebekah moved quickly. She pulled Jacob aside, her voice urgent. "I heard your father tell Esau to hunt game and prepare food so he can bless him before he dies. Now listen carefully and do exactly what I tell you." Her plan was audacious, dangerous, and morally devastating. She would slaughter 2 young goats and prepare them the way Isaac loved. Jacob would bring the food to his blind father and pretend to be Esau. He would steal the blessing meant for his brother. Jacob hesitated, but not for the reasons you might expect. "But my brother Esau is hairy, and I'm smooth-skinned. What if my father touches me? I'll appear to be tricking him and bring down a curse instead of a blessing." He wasn't worried about the morality of deception. He was worried about getting caught. Rebekah's answer was chilling. "Let the curse fall on me, my son. Just do what I say." And so the heist began. The deception. Picture the scene. Rebekah slaughters the goats, blood on her hands, literally and figuratively. She wraps the hairy goatskins around Jacob's smooth arms and neck. She dresses him in Esau's clothes, the smell of the field clinging to the fabric. Jacob takes the prepared food and enters his father's darkened tent. "My father?" "Yes?" "Who is it? Esau or Jacob?" The first lie comes easily. "I am Esau, your firstborn. I've done as you asked. Sit up and eat my game so that you may bless me." But Isaac is suspicious. The voice is wrong. "How did you find game so quickly, my son?" And now Jacob commits his most audacious deception. He invokes God himself as cover for his lie. "The Lord your God gave me success." Isaac still isn't convinced. He reaches out a trembling hand. "Come closer so I can touch you, my son, and know whether you really are Esau." Time slows. Jacob steps forward. His father's fingers close around his arm, feeling the rough goatskin. The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau. A pause. The tension is unbearable. And then Isaac gives the blessing. He pulls Jacob close, smells Esau's clothes on him, and speaks words that will echo through eternity. "May God give you heaven's dew and earth's richness, abundance of grain and new wine. May nations serve you and peoples bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers. Cursed be those who curse you, and blessed be those who bless you." It's done. Jacob has the blessing. Esau has nothing. The aftermath. Jacob barely makes it out of the tent before Esau returns. What follows is one of the most heartbreaking scenes in Scripture. Esau enters with his prepared meal, eager and expectant. "Father, sit up and eat of my game, so that you may give me your blessing." Isaac's voice trembles. "Who are you?" "I am your son, your firstborn, Esau." Scripture says Isaac trembled violently. The horror of realization crashes over him. His voice breaks. Who was it then who hunted game and brought it to me? I ate it before you came, and I blessed him, and indeed he will be blessed." And then Esau's response. Raw, ugly, devastating. A loud, bitter cry that must have echoed across the camp. "Bless me. Me too, my father." But the blessing is gone, spoken, irreversible. Esau's grief turns to rage. Behind that curtain, listening to his brother's anguish, perhaps Jacob felt the first stirrings of conscience. Or perhaps not. What we know is this: Esau made a vow. "The days of mourning for my father are near. Then I will kill my brother Jacob." Rebekah heard of the threat. She moved quickly, as she always did. "Your brother is planning to kill you. Flee to my brother Laban in Haran. Stay until your brother's fury subsides." And so, in the darkness of night, Jacob fled. He had the birthright. He had the blessing. But he had lost his family, his home, and his safety. The deceiver was now a fugitive. For the first time in his life, Jacob was completely alone. No mother to scheme for him, no servants, no tents. Just a man, a stone for a pillow, and the vast emptiness of the desert night. And it was there, at his lowest, most vulnerable moment, that God chose to reveal himself. Jacob dreamed. He saw a stairway stretching from earth to heaven, with angels ascending and descending upon it. And there, at the top, stood the Lord himself. "I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. I am with you, and will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land." Here is the staggering part. God made these promises to a man who had just lied, cheated, and stolen. A fugitive running from the consequences of his deception. Jacob hadn't earned anything. He hadn't repented. He hadn't changed. But God chose him anyway. When Jacob awoke, he was terrified and awestruck. "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it. This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven." He named the place Bethel, house of God, and he made a vow. But notice, even his vow was transactional, conditional. If God will be with me, if he will give me food to eat and clothes to wear, then the Lord will be my God. Even in worship, Jacob was still bargaining, still trying to control the terms. The deceiver had met the living God, but transformation would take time. Love at first sight, and a terrible twist. Jacob arrived in Haran and found his uncle Laban's household. And there, at the well, he saw her. Rachel, beautiful, kind, everything he never knew he wanted. When he saw her approaching with her father's sheep, something awakened in Jacob. He rolled the massive stone off the well single-handedly, a feat that usually required multiple shepherds, watered her flock, and then kissed her and wept. Why the tears? Perhaps relief after the long journey. Perhaps loneliness finally breaking. Perhaps the first genuine human connection he'd felt since fleeing home. Jacob wanted to marry Rachel. Laban agreed, for a price. "I'll work for you 7 years in return for your younger daughter Rachel." 7 years. For love, Jacob was willing to wait. Scripture says those years seemed like only a few days because of his love for her. And then the wedding night arrived, the feast, the celebration. The veiled bride led to the darkened tent. Morning came. Light flooded the tent. Jacob turned to look at his bride and saw Leah. Not Rachel, her older sister, the one with weak eyes, the one he didn't want. Jacob stormed to Laban's tent, shouting, "What have you done to me? I served you for Rachel. Why have you deceived me?" And Laban's answer cut to the bone. "It is not our custom here to give the younger before the older." Do you see it? The younger before the older. Jacob, who had stolen his older brother's blessing by pretending to be him, was now deceived by receiving the older sister when he expected the younger. The deceiver had been deceived. In the darkness, the supplanter was supplanted. Poetic justice. Divine irony. The harvest of what he had sown. Laban offered a deal. Finish Leah's bridal week and he could have Rachel too, for another 7 years of labor. Jacob had no choice. He agreed. And so began 20 years of struggle, rivalry, and conflict. 20 years of reaping what he sowed. 2 wives who competed desperately for his love. 2 maidservants drawn into the rivalry. 12 sons born amid jealousy and heartache. Leah, unloved, cried out with each son she bore, "Maybe now my husband will love me." He didn't. Rachel, barren for years, screamed at Jacob, "Give me children or I'll die." She would eventually get her children, and then she would die giving birth to the last one. Meanwhile, Laban cheated Jacob at every turn, changing his wages 10 times. The manipulator was being manipulated. The schemer out-schemed. 20 years, until finally God spoke. "Return to the land of your fathers and to your relatives. I will be with you." It was time to go home. Time to face what he had been running from. Time to face Esau. Jacob fled from Laban in the night and headed toward Canaan, but the closer he got to home, the heavier the dread became. He sent messengers ahead to Esau with a humble greeting. They returned with terrifying news. "Your brother Esau is coming to meet you, and he has 400 men with him." 400 men. That wasn't a welcome party. That was an army. 20 years had passed, but Esau had not forgotten. Jacob was terrified. He divided his camp in 2, thinking, if Esau attacks one group, at least the other can escape. He sent wave after wave of gifts ahead. Goats, sheep, camels, cattle, donkeys, over 550 animals. A desperate attempt to appease his brother's wrath. And then, for the first time in his life, Jacob prayed. Not a transaction, not a bargain. A genuine cry of desperation. "O God of my father Abraham, God of my father Isaac, save me, I pray, from the hand of my brother Esau, for I am afraid. I am unworthy of all the kindness and faithfulness you have shown your servant. I am unworthy." First hint of genuine humility. First crack in the armor of the deceiver. That night, Jacob sent his family across the Jabbok River. Then he stayed behind, alone. Again, in the darkness. And that's when it happened. A figure emerged from the shadows. No warning, no explanation. He tackled Jacob, and the two began to wrestle. All night long. This wasn't a mystical vision. This was brutal, physical combat. Bodies grappling in the dirt, grunts, gasps, muscle straining against muscle. Hour after hour, neither gained the advantage. Who was this man? Jacob didn't know. All he knew was that he couldn't stop fighting. As dawn approached, the stranger did something impossible. With a single touch to Jacob's hip, he dislocated the joint. Jacob collapsed in agony. The fight was over. he was beaten. But instead of releasing the stranger, Jacob did the unthinkable. From the ground, wounded and broken, he wrapped his arms around his opponent and held on. "Let me go, for dawn is breaking." And Jacob's desperate whisper, "I will not let you go, unless you bless me." All his life, Jacob had been grasping, scheming, taking by force or deception what he wanted. But now, for the first time, he was holding on, not to steal, but to surrender. Not to take, but to receive. The stranger asked a question. Simple, devastating. "What is your name?" Jacob knew what his name meant. To say it was to confess everything, every lie, every manipulation, every broken relationship. But he said it anyway. Jacob. Deceiver. Supplanter. Heel grabber. That's who I am. And then came the blessing. Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel. For you have struggled with God and with humans, and you have overcome. Israel. He who struggles with God. Or perhaps, Prince with God. In that moment, Jacob realized who he had been fighting all night. "Please, tell me your name." The stranger smiled. "Why do you ask my name?" And he blessed him there. The sun rose, the figure vanished, and Jacob stood, limping, wounded, but transformed. He named that place Peniel, because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared. Jacob had spent his whole life fighting for blessing through deception. But true blessing only came when he was honest about who he really was and clung to God anyway. That's the secret. That's the victory. The deceiver didn't win by fighting harder. He won by refusing to let go. The next morning, Jacob looked up and saw the dust cloud. 400 men, Esau at the front. Jacob limped forward. 1 bow, 2, 3. 7 times he bowed to the ground as he approached his brother. And then Esau did something no one expected. He ran. Not to attack, not to kill. He ran to embrace his brother, threw his arms around his neck, kissed him, and both men wept. 20 years of hatred dissolved in tears. The prophecy fulfilled, not through conquest, but through grace. Jacob offered his gifts. Esau refused. "I have enough, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself." But Jacob insisted, and listened to his words. "Please accept my gift, for to see your face is like seeing the face of God, and you have received me favorably." Do you catch it? Jacob saw God's face the night before at Peniel. Now he sees that same grace reflected in his brother's forgiveness. The man who stole the blessing now understood. The greatest blessing is mercy freely given, joy and sorrow. Jacob's story doesn't end with a fairy tale. On the road to Bethlehem, Rachel, the love of his life, the woman he worked 14 years to marry, went into labor. Hard labor. The midwife tried to encourage her. "Don't be afraid, you have another son." But Rachel was dying. With her last breath, she named the boy Ben-Oni, son of my sorrow. Jacob buried her by the roadside and renamed the boy Benjamin, son of my right hand. More heartbreak followed. His daughter Dinah was violated. His sons committed massacre in revenge. Joseph, his favorite, was sold into slavery by his own brothers, and Jacob was deceived again, shown a bloody coat, told his son was dead. The man who lived by deception was deceived by his own children. Yet through it all, God's promise held. The 12 sons became the 12 tribes. the nation was born. A final blessing. In his old age, Jacob was reunited with Joseph in Egypt. He blessed Pharaoh. He blessed Joseph's sons, crossing his arms to give the greater blessing to the younger, the pattern of his own life repeating. And then, at 147 years old, he gathered his sons and spoke prophetic words over each of them. His final request? To be buried with his fathers in the land of promise. I am about to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave in the field of Machpelah. Then he drew his feet up into the bed, breathed his last, and was gathered to his people. The man who fled alone into the night returned home carried by a nation. So what does this mean for you? Right now, today. Maybe you're watching this and you see yourself in Jacob. Maybe you've done things you're not proud of. Cut corners. Hurt people. Made choices that still haunt you at 3 a.m. Maybe you're running from something right now. A broken relationship. A mistake. A version of yourself you wish didn't exist. Here's what Jacob's story teaches us. God doesn't wait for you to be perfect before he pursues you. He met Jacob at Bethel when Jacob was still a fugitive. He wrestled with Jacob at Peniel when Jacob was still scheming. He blessed Jacob not because Jacob deserved it, but because that's who God is. The question isn't whether you're good enough. You're not. Neither was Jacob. Neither am I. The question is, will you stop running and let God wrestle with you? Because transformation doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from holding on. Wounded, broken, honest about who you really are, and refusing to let go until he blesses you. You might walk away with a limp. Jacob did. But you'll also walk away with a new name, a new identity, a new future. Not deceiver, not failure, not the one who messed up, but child of God, overcomer, one who struggled with God and prevailed. That's the offer on the table. If this story stirred something in you, if you feel like God has been pursuing you, wrestling with you, waiting for you to stop running and hold on, take a moment right now. You can pray wherever you are, in your car, in your room. It doesn't have to be eloquent. Jacob's most powerful prayer was just his name, an admission of who he really was. Maybe your prayer is simply, God, I'm tired of running. I'm tired of pretending. Here's who I really am, and I'm not letting go until you bless me. That's enough. That's the beginning. And if you prayed that prayer, if something shifted in your heart today, drop a message in the comments. Let me know. I want to celebrate with you. Remember at the beginning I asked you to type Israel if you've ever felt like your past disqualifies you from God's purpose. Now you know the truth. Jacob was a liar, a thief, a manipulator, and God transformed him into the father of a nation. If God could do that with Jacob, what might he do with you? If this video touched you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear that transformation is possible. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next video. Because Jacob's story doesn't end here. His son Joseph will face Egypt's prisons and palaces, and that story is just as powerful. Until next time, remember, just as God worked in Jacob's life, he wants to work in yours too. See you in the next video.